The immigration policy of the United States of America is very friendly to immigrants. The no man's land has within the years received all sorts of immigrants in the past century. Some go to stay, some go as visitors, some go for studies, and some go for other reasons.
Some folks who came here came escaping persecution from their home countries and are able to file asylum. Others came for studies. Others, came following the filing of what is called an I-130, which is an application for permanent residence. That is when you have an American citizen, spouse, or relation who is sponsoring your visa to migrate to the United States. Of course, there is the DV program, the so-called visa lottery program that has been going on for several years. That also grants a green card or permanent residence to folks who are victorious in the lottery that is conducted worldwide to select immigrants to the United States of America.
Cameroonians of the Central African sub-region of Africa within the past years have increasingly become interested in living in the United States. The first visitors who were there have come back home with a different social background, a complete different way of life and mentality, and a huge economic independence. For this reason, many more Cameroonians are interested in migrating to the United States of America daily.
We're all looking for greener pastures, like staying back home, and then at the end of the day you don't have a job. You just have to probably look for an alternative, and my alternative was coming here to the United States, and things are much better than back home, so I don't regret it.
I think the question and the discussion on the exodus, especially international exodus from most sub-Saharan African countries, and particularly from my country of interest, Cameroon, is a question that beckons our concern, especially in this generation. And when I look at that particular aspect of things as it's been evolving over the last 15 or 20 years, there is no question in my mind that it has some advantages and it has some disadvantages. But looking at it too from somebody who has had the privilege to operate in both environments and now presently also living out of the country in the diaspora, I think the one thing that comes up to mind first of all is the fact that as a human being you can never really deprive or stop a human being from wanting to have a better life. That is for sure. There's certainly a myriad of reasons why different people migrate out of the country for different reasons, but I think in terms of the impact that it has in the short term, it certainly has an impact of taking away a certain amount of knowledge base, a certain amount of skill, and a certain amount of youthful concentration of capacity out of our country within a period of time. But I can tell you for a fact, having lived out of the country for a while and operated in different environments, 99% of people living out of Cameroon want to either live back in Cameroon or have an economic, social, and cultural impact back in the country which is close to our hearts. So I believe it's an advantage in the sense that it gives a lot of people the capacity to have extra training, the capacity to have high quality education, the capacity to even be a lot of times economically independent. Now the critical question is, what do we do with that capacity? The economic independence, the education. Is there a way we could transfer this knowledge back into our country? Is the platform ready to receive this knowledge back into our country? Because it's not only a problem with Cameroon, it's a problem across the globe. Chinese are moving to different parts of the world. Australians, French, people even from developed countries are moving out to the United States and Canada and all these other places that have different programs like the Green Card program to attract skill and talent. So the critical question, and what we have to spend a lot of time thinking about in our generation, is how do we leverage this capacity, this knowledge, this newfound wealth, and how do we transform and transfer that back into the homeland, which is Cameroon, where most of our hearts truly belong.
The thousands who have traveled there come to live together in clusters. Most Cameroonians, like Africans who migrate to the US, fly past through Europe and land in the territory of the east side of the United States, which is closest to Europe. Cameroonians have a huge influence in the eastern cities of the United States like New York, Washington, D.C. and the Maryland area. Some daring Cameroonians have made their way through inland to form other Cameroonian clusters in the city of Houston, Texas, and even far up to the LA region of the west coast of the United States.
So we're going out of Virginia. And from Virginia we shall go down to West Virginia. From West Virginia we shall be closing down to North Carolina. And after North Carolina, we have to go down to South Carolina, and after that, we're going down to Georgia, Atlanta. Then our journey is over. We shall not go down to Florida, to Miami, and we shall stop at Georgia, Atlanta. So we have a long drive to do. We have about 12 hours to drive again. So the journey continues. Okay.
The home for Cameroonians in the United States is Maryland, where in some neighborhoods, almost everything there looks like home. There are thousands of Cameroonians living in the Maryland area. Their influence there is not only felt with your massive manpower presence, but also their culture, the way of life, and their accent, which is visible there too. Usually when they get there, they have to pass through an orientation, usually done by organizations owned by other Cameroonians who have been there for some time.
The ones that they just come to the United States, it's like a different culture. I've tried to educate them for that cultural diversity, for the differences in the culture, and how to behave. That you go to any culture, you know what it is, so that you know how to behave according to the culture of that environment. And most of them, they've really gained a lot from this. They've been aware of some of the things that don't happen in their own culture, and they are also been made aware how to bring the good things from their own culture and get the good things from the American culture and be able to survive and make life worthwhile and meaningful. On that person, because if you use your tongue, you are going to be listening to your own heartbeat. So use the other fingers to check the pulse, but not your tongue. Okay? So now, there is no pulse, there is no breathing. It means the chest is not rising and falling as you've told me. And you know that, oh, the way I can save this person's life is CPR. I'm certified as a CPR, so I can as well save this person's life. So if somebody just falls down here now, what is the first thing you need to do? The first thing you say, are you okay? Are you okay? To see whether the person is alive. And what are the things that will tell you that somebody is alive?
When the person is breathing.
Breathing! Thank you. How do you know somebody is breathing? When you look at the person, what tells you?
Respiration.
What tells you? When we say respiration, where do we look at it?
The chest.
You need to know. Before you call 911, what do you need to know?
Number? The 911 number?
You know the 911 number?
The number, the house number where you're calling.
That's good. The phone you are calling from. Because the phone you are calling from might be from your cell phone because it's an emergency. Maybe that was what was closer to you. or maybe another person's cell phone, but make sure you get that, you know the number you are calling from.
Life for Cameroonians in the United States is not all that rosy as it seems to be. For those who get there focused and abide by the law of the United States and are patient with life, get to see your dreams come true. Those who prefer to be outlaws, lazy and incomprehensive, usually do not have anything to write back home about.
But life here is not really a bed of roses. Newly arrived immigrants find all kinds of challenges in terms of adapting to a new culture, a new way of life. There's language barrier, there's all sorts of prejudices that you have to overcome. It doesn't matter whether you have a bag full of degrees or when you come here you have to still go back to school, you have to get certified in the American educational and professional systems, such that nurses, for example, will have to get either the RN certifications, the doctors will have to go through their own certification process, lawyers the same, but in the end, I think it's really worth it when you go through and you're successful and you get to raise a family of your own and you make life here. The beauty about America is that it's really a melting pot, because when you assimilate and you succeed in settling in the society, you are able to become whatever you want to become.
From the day I set my feet in America, I know it was not going to be easy because, first of all, I came when it was snow. The person that had to pick me up, she was at work and she left me at the airport for about 6 hours waiting. As soon as she picked me up, she started giving me condition in her car. No phone calls, no visiting. I didn't know because she's stressed out. It's now that I understand what she was going through. I stayed with her for 2 weeks, and before I know it, she told me to pack out of her house because I brought stuff from people back home. I did not know how to get to them. I was not driving. I did not know anything. I didn't know how to take a bus, and she was living far from the city. So I had to give her number to people to call so that they can pick up their stuff. Some were coming back at 10 p.m. That's the time they can call, and she was asleep. She said, people are disturbing her when she's sleeping. She cannot tolerate it. Let me look for where I can go. Before she comes back the next morning, I should go away. So I took my stuff and I went, and I was crying on the street. I stood at the bus stop, and somebody, fortunately, like a Cameroonian, saw me and stopped and asked me why am I crying. And I told him the whole story, and he picked me up. I did not know who he was. But when he told me he's a Cameroonian, that's when I calmed down. He took me to his house. And guess what? I stayed in his house a month. Which I have cousins here, I have friends here, but everybody's happy you're here, but nobody's willing to help you out. So I called one of my other friends, which is in another city. She said, oh, well, she's in school, but she can hook me up to do babysitting with a family. That's where I started my life. That's actually where my foundation started. I did babysitting with them for like 5 months. I did not have papers, I did not have a job, but paying me $100 a week wasn't enough. I left a family back home that's counting on me. So I decided to find a way where I can have my own papers.
From the very start, if the Cameroonian immigrant is there for the wrong reasons, his stress will start on the way. They have to first of all prepare proper papers to enable them live in the United States, if that is their intention. This documentation process is cumbersome and expensive.
Well, I do motivate newly arrived immigrants, help orientate them as to what fields to prepare themselves for. Some I help with procuring their stay, be it pulling marriage to a U.S. citizen at process the I-130. I talked about that a few moments ago. Or those who have who genuinely qualify for asylum. But that is not really a significant portion of the population. Some folks come here with F1 visas, student visas, as I said, and I do assist in all those cases. Within the community itself, you also open your home. Sometimes folks come, they have not yet made proper arrangements for accommodation. I have hosted a number of students here. Some families, some whom I just met, and who was introduced to as a Cameroonian, you know, and you do your best, because life in the diaspora here is tough. It's tough. Everything is money.
So I went into immigration and filed in as an asylee, which of course I did not have a strong case and I was denied. They sent me to court. How do I go to court? I had to take a lawyer. How do I pay a lawyer without working? Is it $100 a week? That will come up to $2,000 to pay a Jewish lawyer? No. I started hustling. From babysitting, I started working into a restaurant, from one restaurant to another. People started laughing at me when my friends back home say, oh, we're going to America, we're going to visit Priska, we're going to live with Priska. They laugh, oh, which Priska? She lives in from one restaurant to another, from one place to another. She doesn't have a way to live. Where will you live with her? But all that said, I struggled, had my papers. I came here 2003, had my papers 2006. Went to school for a month. I went to university, of course, did homework 8. Started working $8 an hour. From there, I bought my first car, $900. I drove it for a year. By 2007, I took a car note. People laughed at me. Oh, she came. She doesn't have a house. She doesn't have this. She just went and took a car note. Oh, she's not going to pay. Trust me, I'm still driving that car till date. I've been here for 10 years. Before you know it, I went to school. I did my nursing program. Of course, after a week, I passed my board. I'm working like a nurse. I invited my mother here. She came and visited me. I'm proud of what I am today, but just to advise those back home, when you're coming here, don't put it in your mind, oh, I have my brother, I have my sister, I have my auntie. No, you're by yourself. And if you're lazy, please don't come here. And if you're not focused, you can easily derail in America.
After they have now had papers, they have to live alongside other Cameroonians to be acquainted to the lifestyle over there. It is still not easy to get through this process because the communal lifestyle that Cameroon has back at home is not always the case with them in the USA society.
From my experience living in America, I visited a lot of different communities where Cameroonians live. I will tell you for a fact that the Cameroonians living in the US, number one, are very peace-loving people, as you know. Number two, are generally on the right side of the law. Number three, most Cameroonians living out here want to be productive in their country, Cameroon. They want to be able to help their country. They want to be able to make sure most of their family members living back in Cameroon have a better life because they are out here. And Cameroonians are generally very hardworking people out here. I think one of the things that we as Cameroonians just need to improve a little bit on out here in the United States is, number one, the way we share information, and number two, which I think is the most critical, is just the belief in ourselves. I will tell you for a fact, the Department of Labor Statistics in the US indicates that the African diaspora is one of the most educated diaspora, and the Cameroonian diaspora within the African diaspora is one of the most qualified diasporas in America. But for some reason, we are not great people yet. Why aren't we great? Who are those inventing things? Who are those creating inventions? And when I look at it from a very global perspective, one of the things that comes to mind is that for one reason or the other, when we get to the United States, we tend to become complacent. We tend to become satisfied with a little, and we tend to lose that desire and the dream in our heart because we are worried of taking chances. We're afraid of taking risk. And by doing that, then we end up just doing some of the basic things that just helps give us food and put food on the table from a day-to-day basis.
They may have come here for different reasons, but once they have a life here, the tendency is always to start building a link back home.
I have a blog on the internet, and I constantly intervene on political issues back in Cameroon from a social perspective. So those who are close to me, they read from me all the time, and my blog is there. I try to express myself in terms of where we should be going to, So I'm connected to Cameroon, and I want to tell you, when I get home in the morning, the first thing that I do, I go to the internet, I read all the news about Cameroon, and it's just so wonderful how the world has become a global village, because there are moments when I, from the USA, have called a family member in Cameroon to inform them about what's going on in Cameroon.
Some African communities have built better brotherhoods with a common initiative to live as one, work and support each other. They have had far more unity than the Cameroonian communities, especially in Maryland.
It's a problem of decentralized leadership, so unlike other communities like, the Nigerian communities, they can have like a central representative, like a chief that kind of like, is a unifying figure of the community. But we in Cameroon, we don't have, we are polarized in terms of, you would have the Bamilekes, the Anglophones, the Betis. So that's some kind of a mimicry of the division that we have back home here. So it's an unfortunate situation.
One important point of contact of Cameroonians in the United States is the church. Like many churches have sprang up back home, the situation is not different with Cameroonians in Maryland.
There's the big extended family, my church, my Christian community. That is a huge family. That's a huge support for me. We are predominantly Cameroonian. So I should say 95% of the attendance is Cameroonian. And that's the good thing about Cameroonians here in the US. When they come here, they turn to their Savior. The Bible says, when you eat, remember the God that gave you the strength to work. So the Cameroonians here, they know how to find God, because you need strength to survive here in the US. We are not lax people. Cameroonians here are very hardworking people, and they need to thank whoever is giving them that strength, and that strength comes from no one else but God.
Some have been able to catch up with their ambitions, especially career-wise, but the majority live a life of sustainability but are happy with it, as they still feel that home cannot provide for them yet. As for feeding, most Cameroonians in the United States still feed on local Cameroonian food items, which are found almost everywhere.
Actually, we eat a lot of African food here because that's actually what we used to eating. We do eat pawpaw, beans, dole, arrow, and ribs, everything that you can think of back home. We don't eat it here. Sometimes big fish, mackerel, there's every type of thing, food, African food here. Or sometimes when people are traveling, we do ask them to bring them, or we get them from shops. We have a lot of African shops here, and even some Spanish shops here do carry what we eat back home, like the mackerel comes from the Spanish land.
The vacuum that could be felt in the near future is with the new generation Cameroonian kids, with Cameroonian parents, but are completely Americans because they were given birth in the United States and they have been brought up and taught in schools in the American system. They know very little about home.
It's a great place and I really like it. I like to go there to see turtles and I want to get a pet turtle. I hope the mosquitoes won't bite me, suck my blood. like, and I like the African food. It's really healthy. And the African food doesn't have no sugar, no candy, no nothing. It isn't sweet. It just has vegetables.
Cameroonians in the USA have made distinctions in the health department, law, and they are fast in growing in the entertainment and fashion industry. Two outstanding Cameroonian fashion houses have proven their worth in the USA. One a designer of international repute, and the other migrates the Cameroonian fashion culture learned from the colonial masters in Europe.
I started a long time ago. I can say way back from Sase. I had always loved fashion. Fashion has always been a passion for me. Even back in the military, most of my friends knew me because of the way I stood out from everyone. And when I came to America, I said, okay, you know, I've gone to school. I went to SWA, and I went to EMEA. Came to America. I said, okay, America is a country that gives equal opportunities to everybody. And said, hey, I was going to do something that I love, and take it to a different level. So I decided that I was going to do fashion. I was going to do fashion, sell clothes. But I wanted to sell clothes with my name. And so that's how it started. About 9 years ago, I started selling clothes. And when I spoke to my best friend, Bertrand Forte, and I told him the dream I had, and he saw that dream too, we decided to come up with the name 4J.
Connaissez Paris Boutique is one of a kind boutique here in the Washington metropolitan area. We have a wide range of designers that spread across Italy and France. They are absolutely the best, and they design us the best quality suits, high quality merino wool. The fits are very special. Our shoes are the highest quality of leather.
Most Cameroonians in the United States want to give back home. They try every means to relate back to their families. Some through charity, some just to take care of family members back home. Appreciate every dime that you receive from these people, because it's not easy as it seems. Funny enough, down at kitchen near you, just like in Cameroon, the Cameroonians in the United States prefer to enjoy more of Nigerian than Cameroonian music.